Welcome to everybody to this CARPE DIGEM workshop. And I think most people on this call are related to the project, but for anybody who isn't, just a few words of introduction. CARPE DIGEM is an Interreg project, and it involves 7 European regions. And the whole idea behind this project is catalyzing digital innovation ecosystems. And these we view as vehicles for economic well-being, social well-being, sustainability, making the most of the digital age. And the specific ideas in CARPE DIGEM is to improve public policy, make action plans to maximize the impacts of our local innovation ecosystems. So I don't want to take too long on the project because I'm seeing more and more people joining, and I think you're all part of the project already. So what we'll do is we'll paste in the chat some links to our local website where we're in Donegal. Our digital innovation ecosystem isn't just in Donegal, it's the Northwest region. So we also encompass our neighbours in Derry City and Strabane District Council in Northern Ireland. So we have a website. CARPE DIGEM itself has an Interreg website, and it's full of information of what we do is exchange good practices, and they're all documented there. And today we're going to hear about a specific, what we regard as a good practice in Donegal, which we've shared with the rest of the CARPE DIGEM partnership. And it's fantastic to see the amount of interest. So I have to thank, first of all, Madeira and Christina, because they were the instigators, I think, of this workshop. And other members of the partnership are going to benefit from it as well. So what I have to do now is introduce our speaker, who's Dara McDonough. And Dara is with Donegal County Council and is the lead behind this geographic information system. And he's going to explain all about it and also give you a demo of it. So Dara, do you want to take over the screen and say a few more words about yourself before you get going?
Okay, Margaret, thank you. Can I share my screen now and just see now. Can you see that in full screen now?
That's perfect, thank you.
Okay. Okay, Margaret, thanks for the opportunity to talk to everybody about a subject that I'm quite passionate about. I've been with the Donegal County Council for over 20 years now as the GIS project leader, and I've seen some change over those 20 odd years. What I would like to do is take you on a journey where we've come from, where we're now at, and jump into a few samples and just show what we can do nowadays. So we'll crack on, as I say. So very basically, what is GIS? They say it's GIS is a computer system for capturing, storing, checking, displaying data related to positions on the Earth's surface. A very simple explanation, a bit dated. So that's an explanation from '87. A bit more modern of an explanation is GIS is a framework for gathering, managing, and analyzing data rooted in the science of geography. It integrates many types of data. It analyzes spatial locations and organizes layers of information into visualizations using maps and 3D scenes. This capability, GIS reveals deeper insights into data, patterns, relationships, and situations, helping us make smarter decisions. So you can see that the definition has become a lot more complex. I suppose, but it's starting to bring in visualization, 3D, and all these other sort of exciting aspects. But basically, in a nutshell, it's a method of communicating through the map, be that an image or a graphic. You know, a picture tells, and it was worth 1,000 words. So that's really the sort of concept that we are trying to promote here. So what's the how, why, what is participative GIS? Well, and how can we do it? And all these, just a few pointers here very quickly. Nowadays, we've got higher broadband capacity. You know, that is the backbone of what we can do for participative GIS. In the older days, when you dial up, you couldn't really do much more about other than showing an image. Whereas now, you know, we can have these functional rich software online. And whereas it used to be the realm of the desktop software, we can do that now online. So we can engage with all this exciting functionality. We can store data on the cloud. We can have our software on the cloud. We can have access anywhere. You know, licensing issues become nearly irrelevant at this stage. You're not installing software on particular desktops, etc. It has opened it up and broadened out the spectrum of what we can do and where we can do it from. We've all this open data. There's so much more data out there now that we can use. And there's so much more public data. We have to publish data and make it available for other people to use. You know, and there's just so much out there now to play with and to, you know, do exciting things with. There's also a great knowledge out there in the public that we never really tapped into before. And we now have these platforms where we can sort of engage with people online and ask them about their local knowledge or their local expertise or their general expertise and bring them into the process of local government. There's a willingness for public engagement. There's a thirst out there for information. So these are all the backbones of what, you know, feed into a participative GIS and they're enablers for developing this theme. So if we go back, I said we'd take you on a journey, but if we go back to the very start, this was our first attempt at participative GIS, where we started engaging with the public through the realm of maps. This is an A3 publication we put together back in 2001. You know, it's a big weighty document, good for holding the door open whenever you need it now. You know, it was a list of nearly 100 maps. No one had done this before, you know, in a local authority. So we decided, you know, we'd put out these maps that would be informative for local groups, you know, different sectors of society, etc. And this is what they looked like. You know, they were paper maps, but they were all based on, you know, quite, you know, developed desktop analysis, you know, and this was the only way we could get that sort of GIS, hardcore GIS work out into the public realm. So, you know, showing how far from Dublin is Donegal, and show it on a map, and you go, oh, it's actually quite closer than Kerry and Cork, other places in the county. So again, that picture is worth 1,000 words. You can see it there in front of you. Again, where are all the planning applications in the county? You know, things that development groups, community groups would find interesting and maybe help them with funding applications and strategies and all that sort of stuff. But the problem with something like this is the moment it's printed, it's out of date. You know, and that was, at the time, that was very expensive to put together. You know, you'd get printers on board and all of that. So there was a whole range of different types of maps, just showing different analytical techniques, etc. So that's where we started. And then we jumped into the online world of GIS. Again, you know, primitive, clunky, but at the time, this was groundbreaking in Ireland, where we put our planning information on a map. People could zoom in, zoom out, they could interact with it. They could get the information behind all these points. They could see where the point was in relation to where they lived, etc., etc. But again, this was very, very broadband hungry. So you needed a good connection. So it wasn't really available to everybody. So then we took that sort of template and we moved on to a more interactive template where people could actually come in, they could digitize a boundary and get information about that area. Again, this was groundbreaking at the time for us, where, you know, we were actually giving information to the public and letting them sort of search for it themselves. And so it was a two-way street rather than just the one-way street of us publishing data. So there, someone digitized a boundary on a map and they got a report back about planning conditions relating to that particular site. And this sort of work was winning awards at the time. So won an e-government award. I think it was over in Lisbon in Portugal. We had this big European conference on sort of e-government best practice. So our planning system was up for that, which was great, good recognition. But then things started to change. Software started to change. The digital landscape started to change. Broadband, you know, we were getting away from dial-up. We were getting into sort of higher speeds, capacity, etc. So we went out to tender for a new GIS system back in 2009. Esri won that tender. Esri won probably the biggest GIS platform in the world at the moment. So it was based on an Arcgis server. And at the time, it was all about flex viewer flash maps. And they were very easily to customize. They were all based on widgets that did particular jobs, etc. And it was a big change from developer-led GIS to template. So up to now, the realm of online GIS was really in the hands of web developers, whereas this was a seismic change back to the GIS community. They were in charge now of putting maps online, etc. So flex viewers, they allowed us to explore the potential of public mapping. We could do a lot more. We had these widgets which we could customize very easily to do, as I said, to do particular jobs. We could put a wide range of data, different data, and it was mapping for the public's benefit. And what we mustn't forget is that ultimately the public are paying for all this data. They're paying for all this software. But up to now, they weren't getting the benefit of it. So turning that on its head and publishing maps online from the GIS department gave that benefit back over to the public. And all these were based on Adobe Flash at the time. So again, it was template driven. You know, we could just drop in layers. We could customize base maps. We could put in a widget. You know, it was so simple in comparison to previous. You know, in 10 minutes, you could have published a new map online. So you could pick, oh, I want to show a legend. I want to show a chart. I want to show, you know, a Google Street View in the map, etc., etc. It was a completely new way of doing business. And these were the sort of maps that we had. You know, they were very clean. They were very modern looking. We had slippy maps. You know, the map would just smooth, glide along, whereas previous, it was you know, it would jump to the next when you were panning and load in that part of the map, where this just all happened nice and smoothly. You know, and the good thing about this sort of stuff was we could start giving the public editing capabilities. So we were able for them to start engaging with the maps and start collecting data. So that was the real start of our participative GIS. And we'll come back to this one later. This is the place names or field names GIS that we created. Again, we had all these functional rich software. We could do things like, you know, spyglass, look at another layer behind the layer. You know, we could swipe, we could edit, we could turn off layers, turn them on. You know, it was very exciting, you know, developing these maps at the time. But the evolution since then, as we know, Flex and Flash are no longer supported. So we evolved into what's now called the ArcGIS online map portal. It's a sort of JavaScript-based map portal. It's hosted on the cloud. We're no longer hosting ourselves, so we could get rid of servers. It's template driven. So you choose your template, customizes, and you have a map ready to go within minutes. It's JavaScript based. So they've come up with these sort of concepts of telling stories with maps, you know, taking the viewers on a journey. We can now do 3D stuff on the web, so easy, just because of higher capacity, etc. We now have rich dashboards showing, you know, really good drill down analysis of the data that's being presented. And again, field data collection, very easy now to get the public, get our workers collecting data in the field, which instantly becomes available to public maps. But the main thing about this is not to forget what's happening in the background. Whilst the front end maps look good, they're very slick, everything, but there's a lot going on in the background. There's a lot of data collection. There's a lot of data translations. There's a lot of processing of data. Automated processes have to be created to keep the maps up to date with ever-changing data. You know, you're constantly harvesting data from different sources and bringing them into the maps. So, and what we use to do all that and to facilitate that is this software. It's called FME. It's an extract, translate, load software, and it's critical. It's that link between the sort of the desktop, the data, and the public map. So never forget what's going on, all the work that's going on in the background. And just here's a sample of some of that background work, an automated process that is really, really complicated. You know, taking data from one source, working on it, translating that data, and loading it into the data layer for the map consumption. So like this is something that runs every hour and takes the latest forecast data and pushes it out, customizes it and pushes it out to the public map. So this is our portal now. This is what it is. There's the link to it, donegal.maps.arcgis.com. Feel free to go in and explore all the maps. We'll jump out onto the live version now in a minute. So we can sort of now, you know, gather all our data into little galleries. So we can have all the maps relating to tourism in one spot, all the maps relating to heritage or to residents or to business interests, investment, that sort of stuff. And they're all sort of collated into galleries. So it becomes easier to find the map you're looking for. Again, this is a tour of golf courses. So we can have very specific maps, you know, in different templates. This one just, you know, takes you on a tour around the county of the different golf courses. And one of the things now that is very important in this sort of public mapping are the images that you use. It's not all about just the data on the map now. It's, you know, it's the images that relate that data. And it's the information, the attribute information in behind that point on the map. That's very important now. So again, here's like a 3D scene. We can, you know, present data in a completely different way. And these scenes now are fully interactive, as we'll see later. Again, story map, where the map actually becomes a small part of the story. You know, again, it's images, it's text, it's information, but you're telling a story to the public. And again, you know, you can use different templates together. So you can, here's a 3D template put inside a story map template. So you can, you know, start to build up very complex, but more intuitive maps for public participation. Again, we had dashboards. Everyone had a COVID dashboard at some stage over the last years. We were no different, but again, you know, we were able to source data from the health service. We were able to source data from health service on both sides of the border and bring them into the one map. So because our neighbors in Derry were across the border, different health system, we were grabbing their data, bringing it in and combining it with the Irish data and showing it in the map. When I say never forget the work that goes on in the background, before all this information was made public in sort of open data formats that we could use readily, I sat down every night and transcribed all the COVID results into a spreadsheet for all the counties in Ireland and Northern Ireland to feed into one of those FME, well, a whole multitude of FME processes to get the data in the format so that we could create this dashboard. And it took the health service well over a year before they had that data available as an open data source. So, as I said, there's a lot of work goes on in the background sometimes. And we can go into field collection. We can now create these field collection templates in minutes. You know, someone said, oh, I need an app to collect data relating to blah, 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 blah. You ask them, well, what exactly do you need? 5-10 minutes, you can have an app ready for them to use out in the public domain or out in the field. You know, and this is what it would look like in the on a phone. So you can even sort of mock it up for them and show them, are you happy with that? There you go. You know, so I think, hold on now, I'm just going to stop sharing there for 1 second and share my, go into another share here. Okay, so this is our portal. As you can see, we have various galleries, so we can click on these and open up, you know, there's our tourism gallery. So we have different maps. We can have numbers of pages of different maps, cycle routes and 3D stuff, the lighthouses in the county. You know, things that might be of interest to the tourism sector. That sort of thing. So that's the tourism. Oh yeah, this is the 3D stuff. And this is a 3D map of mountains and very easy to interact, to move around. We couldn't have done this, you know, 5-6 years ago. Just the bandwidth wouldn't have facilitated us to do that. And the amazing thing about these 3D maps is that they're fully interactive. So you want to find out what's the information behind that route? You know, it's all there. So again, and it's like move around the map. You know, it's limitless what you can do with these sort of things in terms of giving information out to the public. It's a different way of presenting it. Here's a story map sample of different churches of a particular architect around the county. So you can have like an introduction, and then you can sort of see the photograph, see the background information, see it on a map, zoom in, zoom out, etc., move it about and see where it is. Jump to the next one. You know, so you can create these very specific stories that tell one particular story. And I suppose the approach that I've taken to how we participate with the public is that we do them in very specific maps. We don't have one map and we load everything onto it and leave it up to them to find the information. We sort of drive the specific information to them in a specific individual map. So we'd have a map for cycle routes, another map for golf courses, another map for lighthouses, you know, so it's very clear. The information on the map is very clear in what it relates to. It also makes it easier for the public to interact with it. Or we can have just basic, simple maps, you know, a basic template just showing on a map where something is. These are all our Wi-Fi for EU hotspots around the county. Again, fully interactive, you know, find out where they are, change the background map, you know, it's that easy for the public to interact with these now. Let me see now, what's next? Okay, so now we go into the place names map or the field names map. And I think, Margaret, you might have identified this as the best practice. I think we had
Derek, it was identified as a best practice, but I think what I would like to do is have a new best practice which covers the whole gambit, not just focused on the field names, but on the whole use of the GIS, both for our environmental, like road gritting and COVID, and the tourism and culture, because I think that doesn't encapsulate the whole power of this. So I think we will produce another one for CARPE DIGEM. So yeah.
Okay, no problem. So this was a map we put together because I was getting requests from local groups to print them out maps so that they could write field names on paper maps to capture them. And there has to be a better way of doing this because I was sick and tired of printing out maps for everybody. So we put this together. Said, oh, I think we can do editing on our online GIS now. And we created this, went out to community groups. And as you can see, they started using it. They started capturing points. So very easy. It's like, check, what do I want to put on the map? Is it a field name? Is it a lake name? Is it a road name? Choose whichever one, put the point on the map and fill in the information. And that is it. That's it, captured and archived. And instantly available. So it doesn't matter if somebody from Australia put a point on this map, you know, they would have, it would be instantly available to everybody else. So again, you know, the functionality, you know, we could put on labels so people could see the names. You know, we could add in different maps. We had, you know, functions where we could, you know, swipe between maps. Hold on, let me just change that background map to imagery. you know, so people could look at the old maps. Let's zoom in a little bit more. Okay, so these were the old maps showing all the field boundaries, and then they could look at how those boundaries might have changed. If we look up here at this field here, you can see that it's now one big field as opposed to 1, 2, 3, 4 fields back at the turn of the century in the 1900s. So this was great for the public to be able to, you know, look at where all the old fields were that they had the names for and where they were in relation to this or new field boundaries. You could never have done that on a paper map at all. So, and then local groups where, you know, I went out to local groups and told them, here, listen, just use this map. It's free, it's available. Here's the link, away you go. And as you can see, I'll just turn that off. You know, at this stage, you know, we've collected quite a lot of information, you know, and this information was being lost as the older generation were dying and, you know, taking the names with them. So it's you know, it's a very, very good use of participative GIS in sort of creating that historic archive. So we move on then, and then, you know, this is a dashboard that we have for our winter maintenance program, where we, you know, salt the routes at night that are going to be icy. So, you know, we can have a map showing where all these routes are. They turn purple when they're going to be gritted. We have, you know, brought in the Twitter sort of feeds, the temperature information. We bring in webcam images updated every 5 minutes, etc. So you now got this information in one view for the public to consume. They're not jumping here and there. There's a map. Here's a link out to the webcam for this camera, and here's the next one and the next one, etc., etc. I'm just bringing it all together into one view. So here was another, this is part of our platform, you know, of creating sort of GIS sites. And I was asked to, could we create a site and bring all this information together about the development of the market square in Letterkenny? So they were running a competition with architects to see who had the best concept and get the public to vote on it. So I was asked about this. I went, oh yeah, I think we can do something with GIS on that. So this is using the GIS platform. But the funny thing about this is there's not a single map in this application at all. So here we are just using GIS software to present 6 concepts with links to all the documentation. And here we are asking the people to vote. This voting option was created using the field survey data collection app that we would normally use for collecting GIS data in the field. You know, so this was real participation with the public, and it absolutely blew our socks off because, you know, engaging with the public on something like this, we were expecting maybe tens of replies, maybe 100 on a good day. We got about 3,500 engagements back, votes through this system, which, you know, really confirmed there's an appetite out there for public participation. And it's about you being creative in how you use your software. Like this was GIS, this was mapping software, not being used for maps, but being used for public engagement, which it's good at, but just being a bit creative about it.
Hey, Dara, that's really impressive. So it's gone from being a GIS to being a content management system with public engagement as well.
You know,
so
this is where we've got to. It's a platform of a suite of GIS technology. Use it for whatever you want to use it for. You know, it doesn't have to necessarily be a map.
So, Dara, I'm just conscious of the time, and
Yeah,
I
I've
know
just
there's going to be some questions.
one or
Is it
two more
okay if we?
samples.
Just a point on that. Only the people who need to go to the coordination meeting have to leave. Everyone else can stay,
Okay.
Margaret.
Right.
So,
Okay. Well,
so
listen, I'll
it's,
stay and join your meeting a little late then, because I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions.
well, we need you to present, Margaret.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's the programs for the meetings. Now we
Okay.
really need you there because it's
Okay.
quite short. I'm
Right.
sure
Then I
Dara.
will leave with you then. No
Yeah,
worries.
I'm sure. Well, but we'll leave everything in your capable hands, Dara. How about that?
That's okay. That's no
Okay.
problem.
So we'll do that. So only the CARPE DIGEM coordinators will have to leave at 12:45. Okay, everyone else can stay. Yeah. All right. Okay.
So this was just another sample of public participation, getting people to engage, getting them to capture data out in the public. So we're trying to get them to map their local area points of interest. So they could, this is what it looks like on a phone. They could select from drop down, lists, like here's a public bin, for example, select that, put in a description, use the GPS off your phone to mark the point on a map, and then add an image, take a picture or add an image from your photo gallery, and then, you know, submit it. And that appears on this map. It'll appear instantly. Well, no, it won't actually appear instantly because it goes through a moderation process. But you can see there's a monument, you know, and links to, you know, the photographs of that point on the map. So this is about getting more drilled down local information, you know, from public community groups, etc., about their areas, and presenting that for everyone to see. So when I said, you know, at some point in the presentation, it was a template driven sort of development now. Like these are all the templates that we have available to us for maps. We have a 3D viewer, attachment viewer, basic map, a gallery, charts, you know, a whole range of different routes. And that's not going into the dashboard options we have, or the field mapping options, or the sort of the hub site options. You know, so it has just taken a massive leap forward, and the capabilities are, you know, the potential is huge. And it's just up to you as to how you see that potential and how you develop it. So I think, Margaret, I'll leave it at that. If that's okay. I hope it's given a flavor of what we do here and how we are sort of developing these participative tools.
Thanks, Dara. That's a really good exposition. And even though I've looked before at the hills, I'm really impressed with all the other uses that I wasn't aware of. So I guess what I'm going to do now is, because I'm going to disappear myself in a few minutes, I'll just hand over to you. And anybody who has any questions, please raise your hand or just speak up, and I'm sure Darryl will do his best to answer your question.
Okay.
Just before I go, Dara, it's also to know what you're planning for the future now. I mean, what are there some key projects and initiatives that you're looking at? Some real priorities now for the use of GIS in Donegal.
We've a couple of themes that we really want to develop on, and especially sort of around the environmental sector. And we really want to develop the field mapping for staff so that interaction between data collection and data use internally and ultimately out to the public is a lot more seamless. So they are sort of the projects that we are working on for the next year or so, but then always something will crop up. That's the thing. Something crops up, and you have the ability and you have the technology to react, to do something with it. Like if you'd asked me that question 2 years ago, pre-pandemic, pre-dashboards and all that sort of stuff, it wouldn't dashboards wouldn't have been on the cards, but they're now very much, central to a lot of stuff that we do. And just from reacting to that and sort of dipping our toes in that dashboard pool.
Derek, can I
Great,
ask
thanks.
you?
I need
know
to go now. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, Clive,
Cheers. Thanks, Dara. Right.
one thing I wanted to ask you, Dara, I know that the council, you've got Internet of Things projects as well. Are they integrated into the GIS? Things like environmental sensors for temperature or river flooding and so on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And as I said, it's all about data harvesting and where your data is coming from and what process you put in place to take it from that sensor and present it into the map. So yeah, we have samples of, pedestrian counters, so the dashboard this is the great thing now. The dashboard is live.
Yeah.
It reacts as things change in real time. So this is the exciting thing. Like the dashboard is not just a snapshot. It's
live data.
It updates automatically. It's exciting in that way. And like the Internet of Things, that's a huge. Yeah, I'm probably going back to Clive's question there. That probably is going to be one of the what do you call it, themes that we're going to have to sort of progress with.